Together, I would like to call to order the Wednesday, January 5th meeting of the City of Monona San Damiano Project Steering Committee. Brian, you have the roll call. Okay, we have no appearances that I know of. Is that right, Brian? Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the November 12th meeting?
So moved.
Second, Rebecca?
Yeah.
Was that you? Does anybody have any changes or additions, corrections? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Minutes are approved. Moving on to new business, our main event today, we have a presentation on the Ho-Chunk Nation's history with the San Damiano property. Kyla, one of our committee members, and Missy Tracy, welcome Missy, who are both part of the Ho-Chunk Nation, are going to give the presentation. So if you two want to go ahead, do we need, is there any kind of PowerPoint or anything, or?
There is.
Okay.
So Brian said he would hand over the controls to me and I can share the power. I'll share my screen.
Cool.
And also, Mayor, I wanted to add that John Warner, our business development manager, is also going to be joining us to talk about some of the projects that we are involved in around Lake Monona, as well as the community. I thought it was relevant to kind of the whole overview of everything.
Okay.
So John has joined us as well. So
Okay.
I'll present and then John will go and then Kyla will close us out. So
Okay,
whenever
sounds
you-
good.
And Missy, you should have co-hosting capabilities. Let me know if you can't open and show your presentation, and if not, I'll give you full hosting capability.
Okay, and please help me with this because it's been a while since I've had to drive. So
Yeah, I'll just make you host, and then you should be able to.
oh, okay. Okay, you are the host now. So when I share this, is there?
Yep, on the bottom of the screen, there should be a green share screen button you click on, and then it brings up
Got
the
it,
screen.
got it.
Pick-
Yes, yes. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Okay. Can you see the screen?
Nope, not
No.
yet.
That's so
Okay,
far.
let's see.
When you hit, Missy, when you hit share screen, your laptop should come up with any number of documents, and you just want to click on the document and then hit share, and then it'll come up.
Okay, let me try this again.
There we go.
Okay, and then let me put it into a slideshow format. And-
Oh,
No? I am so sorry. I wish, as I say, it's been, well, okay, so will it, let me ask you this, will it be split between you guys and the PowerPoint then?
there now it's up again.
Yep, we'll be able to see both the people on the screen and the PowerPoint at the same time.
Okay, so I will. When I go into slideshow mode though, it isn't, that's when you guys say it kicks out.
Now we can see it, at least I can.
Yeah, I can too.
Yeah.
It's-
But it's not in
small.
slideshow mode yet.
Is it small or you can see it?
It's a little small. Once you try a slideshow mode one more time, and if it doesn't work,
Okay,
you can just email me
There we
the.
go.
there we go. Thank you. Thank you all for your
Right.
patience. I really appreciate it. Okay, well, good evening. My name is Wanink Choinga, which means bluebird, and I am from the Eagle Clan. My name is Missy Tracy, and I'm the Municipal Relations Coordinator at Ho-Chunk Gaming Madison. I develop and cultivate relationships in the Madison-Dane County region. I am a member of the Ho-Chunk Nation, and that's the Aboriginal tribe to this region that we call Dejob, and that is for the 4 principal lakes of the Madison-Yahara River chain, Mendota, Monona, Wabisa, and Kiganza. I just want to say that it is a pleasure to be here tonight to be able to present on this property that is part of our ancestral land. We very much appreciate opportunities to present. And this presentation, the presentations that I give throughout the community are on a very high level because our history is so vast. And it isn't site specific per se. That being said, as all relationships begin with introductions, so goes the way of understanding this place, culture, history, and the Ho-Chunk people. So to appreciate the significance of this place, the site, San Damiano, you must understand first the Ho-Chunk people and our way of life. So our relationship to the land, caring for Mother Earth is our way of life. Respect for the land, which we believe is only ours for safekeeping, and to take from it only as needed for our future generations. And that's so that the land will be able to, we can maintain it and it can renew itself and flourish. So we were a people who moved regularly for sustainability. We made our homes among greenery and water. In these sustainable biological systems, game was plentiful and forests provided edible plants, and the lakes and wetlands provided habitat for fish, waterfowl, and aquatic mammals. Environmental stewardship is an ongoing responsibility. Resilience. There's a reason our people have survived thousands of years against all odds and in harsh environments. Native people are survivors and are resilient. We have survived genocide, forcible removals, poor living conditions, disease, ethnic cleansing policies, assimilation, acculturation, deculturalization, major land cession, racism, poverty, and environmental devastation. Yet we are still here, based on our way of life and all in relation, our traditions, all in harmony with Mother Earth. We have sustained our culture. The Ho-Chunk people have survived here and sustained 3 ice ages. We believe that the Creator gave us this beautiful place to take care of and that we had all that we needed. We used the resources for food, clothing, shelter, and medicine. We did not ravage the land, and we left nothing to waste. The land, when first encountered by the colonizers, was beautiful and untouched in Dane County, which had the richest and most fertile soil. This was by way of our caretaking and stewardship of the land. Perspective in terms of the colonizers were, we may have appeared to be a simple people, but rather to enjoy what we had to sustain our lives, we were sophisticated in caring for the land and each other by the very means of what we had. We coexisted with the animals, mammals, plant life, and all of the environment. In taking care of Mother Earth, we hold a conservation view that the multifaceted interaction of human and natural environments, assurance that a resource can be put to human use without threatening its ability to replenish itself. So we were known as the Winnebago tribe, a name which is foreign to us. We have our own name. So in 1994, we became the Ho-Chunk Nation, a spiritual name meaning people of the big voice or sacred language. And I will add that that is Madison's oldest living language. The Ho-Chunk people are descendants of the effigy mound builders, AD 700 to 1100. We have always lived on this land. Mound building began in the Four Lakes region some 2,700 years ago, but our ancestors, the builders, were around 15,000 years earlier. Non-native people have been here for only 3% of that time. The mounds are well designed, sophisticated, and sculpted purposefully. The mound building era ended suddenly around AD 1200. At one time, the land was covered by mountainous glaciers. The slow melting glaciers left behind rivers, lakes, and ridges, as well as deep kettles, which would become lakes. The warmer climate continued to change the environment, and game became plentiful. The Ho-Chunk people followed the game back to the area, to the hallowed land of our mound building ancestors, who gave cultural and spiritual meaning to the natural landscape. When settlers first came to southern Wisconsin, they were surprised to see that the terrain had been sculpted by a people many, many years ago. They found raised earthen figures. The mounds were built during ceremonial and burial rituals to represent our worldview and religious beliefs. Effigy mounds were so named because many were built in the forms of birds, animals, mammals, humans, and other forms. The mounds are like the earth and stone monuments around the world inspired by deep faiths and beliefs. 20,000 mounds were built in Wisconsin and 4,000 remain today. Of those 20,000 mounds, 1,500 were built in Madison. Approximately 200 remain today. So 75% of the mounds in Madison have been destroyed. While much has been destroyed, what remains offers an opportunity for thousands of years to interpret and share. Effigy mounds were also found in neighboring states of Iowa, Minnesota, and Illinois, but not in the large clusters found in southern Wisconsin. The mounds associated in the San Damiano area are just a small aspect of a much larger and longer Ho-Chunk complex that stretches continuously back to the Archaic Paleo periods of time. Bill Quackenbush, Ho-Chunk Nation Tribal Historic Preservation Officer, took some work crew back and walked the entire property for a TCP report, but the report hasn't been completed yet. Should the property be considered for renaming, Bill has offered a few suggestions. But Bill plans on using the San Damiano property as one of the stopovers for an upcoming dugout canoe trip, a week-long journey from Mendota Park all the way down to the Nature of Confluence located in South Beloit. Ho-Chunk Gaming Madison, which is where the three of us represent, we're the connector in this community to the Ho-Chunk Nation Heritage Preservation Department. Oral tradition and historic documents describe the Ho-Chunk as a large and populous tribe that occupied much of southern Wisconsin. However, warfare and foreign diseases decimated the tribe by the late 17th century. Then surprisingly, the population rebounded by the late 18th century. By the early 19th century, the Four Lakes region became the hub of Ho-Chunk activity. The return to the region was a return to the homeland of our ancestors, the effigy mound builders. This time also began our forced removal period with a series of removals to 4 states wherein we were fugitives. Many of our relatives died because of the horrific journeys. However, we kept coming home. Before the invasion of our homelands in the 19th century, over 10,000 Ho-Chunks occupied more than 10 million acres of land in Wisconsin and northern Illinois. In 1829, there were 598 Ho-Chunk people living around the lakes, according to a census, and the Ho-Chunk claimed most of southern Wisconsin. From 1846 to 1874 began our forced removal period. The federal government began a series of attempts, estimated around 11, and that maybe more, but to move us from our Wisconsin territory. Our tribe was first established in Iowa, then Minnesota, still later in South Dakota, and finally in Nebraska. Andrew Jackson, sharp knife to the Ho-Chunks, became president of the United States, and in 1829, the first treaty signed with the United States government that included a major land cession, 2.5 million acres, was sold for 29 cents an acre. However, the value was actually $1.25, and even that was a conservative figure. In his first message to Congress, he recommended all Indians be moved westward beyond the Mississippi. He was convinced that Indians and whites could never live in peace. Ho-Chunks refused to stay out of Wisconsin, and we kept returning home, traveling by foot by night, and even risking our lives to come back. We refused to live on reservations, and our chief made the decision to come back from Nebraska and live as refugees in our former homeland. There was little left of our original lands. We were settled on lands that were not wanted, and we are the only tribe in Wisconsin for whom no reservation was ever formally established. In fact, it has been said that we are the tribe that could not be contained on a reservation. So the federal government had to give up on these removal efforts, and under special legislation that passed with the Winnebago Act of 1881, Ho-Chunks were allowed to stay in their homeland of Wisconsin. From 1887 to 1934, Indian land ownership reduced by 2/3. By the Indian Homestead Act, and I bring this up because of the history of the San Damiano property being a parochial school, as I understand it. So I just kind of want to make the comparison here with regard to our history. By the Indian Homestead Act of 1884, many Ho-Chunks acquired homesteads, and we were given 40-acre homesteads. In 1887, the General Allotment Act provided for the individualization of Indian land. However, this policy did not achieve the expected results. So the Bureau of Indian Affairs believed that education could quickly resolve the Indian problem. The Commissioner of the Bureau of Indian Affairs established mission day schools, also referred to as residential schools, as many of you may have heard in the news over the past year. This was expected to merge into the local school system. However, these institutions were set up to remove Native culture and language as an attempt to assimilate our children into a non-Native way of life. Boarding schools were strange and confusing environments. Students faced many problems, neglect and disregard to our culture and language. Student and parent powerlessness and overcrowding were common problems. Our mothers, meaning John and I, were product of the mission schools. And we are the children of boarding school survivors. So our history isn't ancient history, but rather by the very folks that raised us. Boarding mission schools, also referred to as residential schools, were institutions that people, they were set up to assimilate us, and people thought of and referred to us as savages. The idea was kill the Indian, save the man mentality. I wonder where else are graves located next to schools. And according to the National Native Boarding School Healing Coalition, by 1926, there were 357 schools in 30 states attended by more than 60,000 children. Hundreds of thousands of Native children may have passed through them during the decades they were maintained, according to the coalition. So the Ho-Chunk Nation, and I bring this up to kind of explain how the nation and how we as Ho-Chunk Gaming Madison, how it all kind of comes together. So in the midwinter of 1962, Ho-Chunks voted overwhelmingly to adopt our Constitution and bylaws of the Wisconsin-Winnebago tribe under the Indian Reorganization Act of 1934. And that was to promote economic and social development and establish tribal governments. So this is known as the Indian Reorganization Act period from 1934 to 1940. Our governmental structure, our tribal government, is established very similar to how the United States federal government is. It is comprised of 4 branches. Executive, we have a president who governs. Legislative, judicial, and the highest power of our government being our general council, which is our tribal membership. So from the side that we represent, Indian gaming, let me just first explain, folks often ask why gaming. Gaming is a traditional tribal practice and the oldest profession for Native Americans. Ho-Chunks have traditional games that are played, such as the moccasin game by our men folk and kansu by our women. And there's a photo up on the screen of our moccasin game. However, gambling has its roots in the United States and other English colonies as far back as the 1600s in the form of lotteries. Lotteries were not only entertainment, but a source of revenue to fund the colonies. Each of the 13 colonies established a lottery system to raise revenue. Legislators authorized lotteries to fund schools, roads, bridges, and other public works. Playing it became a civic responsibility. Proceeds helped establish some of the nation's most prestigious universities, such as Harvard, Yale, Dartmouth, Princeton, Columbia, and William and Mary. Our revenue benefits all forms of government, tribal, state, county, and city governments. As our nation does not have a taxation system for a tax base, gaming affords us the means to fund our social programs, just as the lottery does for state revenue. The Ho-Chunk Nation doesn't have a contiguous land base such as other reservations. We, throughout Wisconsin and the United States, we're a checkerboard community throughout various communities from central through southern Wisconsin. So due of that unique status as a non-reservation Indian nation, the Ho-Chunk Nation can purchase land throughout its original homeland and request that the Bureau of Indian Affairs put the land in trust status, non-taxable. The land is developed for gaming enterprises, tribal housing, and various Ho-Chunk program needs. The land is developed for programs such as health, education, and housing, and to fund our tribal government. Ho-Chunk Gaming Madison is the only facility in Wisconsin dedicated to Class II gaming, and Class II gaming being bingo. So local interest and tourism. The Ho-Chunk demonstrate our way of life, goodwill, and social responsibility to our homeland and all its residents. We have and will continue to teach our real history, our stories, our culture, and our traditions. This is what keeps them alive, as well as ensures accurate accounts of history. Our Ho-Chunk cultural tourism reflects both historical and physical geography, the landscape, the mounds. It allows the Ho-Chunk people an opportunity to better educate the local and touring public about the origins of this region. The Des-Jopes region's natural environment is an important tourism resource. The mounds are not only Ho-Chunk's history, but all of Des-Jopes history. Not every community has their history still in existence from thousands of years ago. Our hope is to enhance the tourism market while highlighting the Aboriginal people, history of the Ho-Chunk, the long-standing history of effigy mounds, and the beautiful landscape. Ecotourism demand is a result of both tourist demand and the interest in developing this niche experience. It is a beneficial and sustainable industry. There's a large draw appealing for anthropologists and archaeologists, thousands of years of physical history in existence. The lake and the mounds afford us this wonderful opportunity for the community. Through our community outreach, we have identified local interest for education and awareness of the Ho-Chunk people and have identified potential opportunities such as this one to come and speak and present to you tonight. Our relationship development and local collaboration that we do in the community that we've been doing now for approximately 7.5 years is absolutely fantastic for the community as well as for our people. And I would like John to come up next and tell you about the projects that Ho-Chunk Gaming Madison is involved with in not only this community, but around Lake Monona, which I think is very relevant to the project steering committee. So John, if you wouldn't mind taking over, I appreciate it.
Greetings, how's everybody tonight? I'll forego my Ho-Chunk introduction for time's sake. Otherwise, we'll be here talking all night long. So I'm John Warner. Thank you, Missy, and thank you, Kyler, and thank you, steering committee, for allowing me to speak. So I'm here to kind of give you an idea. My job is not so much a friend maker. That's Missy's job. My job is to get into the action with the line people and get projects completed. I currently serve on the Friends of Nolan Waterfront Park on the board. So we've been involved in trying to develop that project for some time, about 3 years, I believe. We've been involved in one way or another. Last night, we just got a reintroduction for the RFQ for the master planning for Olin Park, the Nolan Causeway, and Law Park, and the whole waterfront. So we've been collaborating from Ho-Chunk Gaming Madison's perspective on that one, because we believe in the communities that we are part of, and we also get involved with the boards and the communities. That's interesting and relative to you guys, because I know that you guys have some action right across the lake, and we wanted you to know that we can assist you in a variety of ways. Because when you partner with a Ho-Chunk Nation and or we open up the doors to that kind of thing, you have a 300-pound gorilla in your backyard, with the federal government being the 500-pound gorilla backing us up. So we have access to revenues, grants, incomes, the federal government at our disposal with BIA. And that goes with many of the things that we do for our reservation-based operations. And to clarify, it's very difficult for the Ho-Chunk Nation to get gaming trust land established. You know, in Beloit, that it's taken us nearly 8 years just in that process alone. So it's very difficult for us to get gaming trust, but we can do it. The easier trust is economic development trust and service trust, gaming or not gaming, but services to provide to the membership and to help our local partnership. So when Ho-Chunk comes a knocking, it generally is a good partnership that we can help. We do a lot of outreach all across the state. We here in Ho-Chunk Gaming Madison concentrate here. One of our success stories is the AB interchange. I don't know if you guys are aware of that yet. But we were able to get the second most dangerous intersection to be changed to an overpass installed with frontage roads. And during that process, we collaborated with the city of Madison, Blooming Grove, and Dane County, and we're able to come up with a real solid solution to to the tune of about $37 million in collaboration with WISDOT. So we know how to work with a bunch of communities. We know how to use our resources and political and monetary. Some of the other things that we've worked on is we're trying to help Dane County Landfill and its sustainability campus, which is located on this side on 1218. We have been in support with the Dane County landfill operations and their acquisition of the Yahar Hills golf course. So we have a great working relationship with Dane County, Joe Parisi and his office, and we have a great working relationship with the city of Madison, the mayor, Conway. Another project that I've been able to help with is we just got introduced for the Rindle Park solutions. So we work with a lot of communities, and I'll work with the frontline people planning and development. And this helps us to help all the communities understand what we can do and what we can bring to the table, not only an economic component, but through tourism, through education, through historical knowledge of how we've done things in the past to help move forward. So unique thing people don't know, but you know, us Ho-Chunk, us native people, were the original landfillers, because we have a clan, the Snake Clan, they are our utility force that take care of the waste products for in our villages. And we've been stewards of nature for a very long time. And I have been developing for the nation since 2006. So I've worked on a variety of projects, all the way from the initial phases of Beloit all the way up to the brand new construction of the Wittenberg facility, expansions of our operations. And I actually in 2006 converted this operation from a bingo hall to a gaming machine operation. And I did that in 90 days. So we have the experience, the knowledge, and the capacity to get projects done. And we have the outward facing ability to help. So I hope that's enough information. If you have any questions, Missy would be more than happy to, or I can answer them.
So Kyla, I can stop sharing my screen if you had a PowerPoint, or if you just wanted to interject a few words and close us out.
Yeah, no, I don't have a PowerPoint. I'm just hoping to kind of paint a picture for everyone so that we can wrap this up here. I'm here to wrap everything up on it with a nice pretty bow. So hi, everyone. Thank you so much. Thanks again, Missy and John, for joining us today and providing us with these awesome presentations. My role here today is to kind of just bring things back down to a more local level. So first and foremost, Missy talked to you about the assimilation and removal period, and that was actually quite a long period of time for us. And my father was adopted out into a white family. That happened a lot, unfortunately. So I was never raised in a traditional Ho-Chunk family, but I worked here at Ho-Chunk Gaming Madison for about 13 or so years. And within the last 3 to 4 years, maybe a little bit longer, I discovered this food sovereignty movement. And through that, I kind of rediscovered my culture. And so I've been digging more into the local Madison region history and really tying that to food. So the presentation I normally give is a presentation that kind of is a compliment to Missy's in that I go through history and show how our food systems have changed from pre-colonization through the changes and then post-colonization. What does our food system look like now? And how can we better supplant that for our community members? But I'm not going to talk about food right now because we're in the middle of winter. And so it's not really appropriate to be talking about harvest season. But I did want to kind of discuss and kind of illuminate what a winter might look like for the Ho-Chunk people. So don't have a whole lot of knowledge, unfortunately, about this particular site, whether it was, a summer, a fall camp, whether it was a year-round camp or they'd stayed there all year. I haven't been out there yet in the winter to see how chilly it is, how with the wind chill off the river or off the lake there feels like. So I haven't been able to make a guess there, but either way, we know that there was villages nearby. So we know that there is habitation nearby and there was individuals nearby. And we know that people would stick around in this region in the winter around the lakes too. So whatever it looked like, it was probably a pretty typical Ho-Chunk camp in the winter. And what those look like is actually in the summer and the fall, we'd have really big camps. Everyone comes together. During fall is harvest season. So everyone comes together and they harvest all the crops and have a really big feast and share that harvest meal. But winter is a time when there's scarcity of resources. So camps would break up into smaller family groups where they can take care of their immediate family. And those camps could look like, just the immediate nuclear family with your parents and your grandparents and some aunts and uncles, maybe some in-laws. It might be, if it's a very successful camp and they do a lot of really good hunting, they might have multiple families coming together and have a little bit bigger camp there. But so you probably saw in the beginning of Missy's presentation, there were several structures, and I think a couple of them were just the skeleton of, everyone has seen a wigwam before. What we call them is chipoteques. And in the winter, those chipoteques would be a little bit smaller because you want to trap all of that warm air and all of that heat inside. But you might find, again, your immediate nuclear families living in a chipoteke. You might find a couple families or multiple generations, especially because grandparents were really, really crucial to Ho-Chunk culture. And especially taking care of, especially during the winter time, is when they're, they're really valuable for us or to us. But the chipoteques themselves, you're probably thinking of, it's wintertime, it's cold. We know what it's like once we get outside these lakes, around these lakes, and it's icy. And so it probably seems like it would be a cold, maybe a bleak existence, but it's actually contrary to that. It's actually a very cozy, warm, inside is just a nice, snuggly kind of feeling to it. It's like camping in the winter, except it's much more hardy. It can really keep you warm. And they were covered with insulation made out of natural materials. So you didn't have any elements coming in, no rain, no snow. You're just like snug as a little bug inside of your chipoteke with your family. And it seems like it might be a really, it feels like a long season all the time. I know winter just feels like it just goes on and on and on. And so we're probably thinking again of like, what are they up to during the winter? What's happening? And so And there's a lot of stuff that is going on in the winter for Ho-Chunk people. So normally I think about like hibernating and just kind of hunkering down and just kind of staying in one place and just trying to stay warm. But and that was part of it. We hunker down in the winter and take care of each other. But they were also really taking advantageous of this time period. There's a lot of time. Well, it's not a long day, but there's a lot. It feels like there's a lot of time in winter, so they would make the most of that. And you're going to find a lot of really fun crafting and creating of objects and art and materials and tools, and it's all kinds of they're keeping themselves busy for that spring season, because you're going to have a lot less time in the spring and the summer and the fall to be working on your regalia or your tools or your fancy pieces of jewelry. So you're going to use this time really wisely and bulk up all of your fancy pieces during the winter, and then you have all that stuff ready to go when you're ready to show that off later on in the seasons. But there's also a lot of fun stuff to do outside. So there's, even though it's still like less hunting, there's less obviously less foraging during the winter, but there's still trapping, and there's still hunting and ice fishing, and so all that stuff to supplant all of your foods that you harvested throughout the year and you stored away, so you have a nice full stew pot later on. And there's plenty of tool making. And such as just making your everyday tools like your bows and arrows or your spears, but there's also like canoe making. Missy mentioned Bill Quackenbush making the dugout canoe, and so that's really that's a perfect time for him to gather around a bunch of youth and teach them these skills during the winter time. And this is another really important reason why winter is important to us, because this is a really important time for us to pass on information and pass on skills, pass on that education that you have time for nowadays. And so they really, every single season, they really capitalize on the time and the resources that they have to prepare for that next season and make sure that they've got everything ready to go and they're not caught with their pants down, so to speak. So all of these activities aren't specifically winter related. You could do any of the stuff throughout the year, and all this stuff was done throughout the year. But there's this time that makes it enjoyable and feasible for to take care of it at this time. But the only really winter exclusive activity besides like you need ice or snow or like ice fishing, you need necessary for that ice to or the lake to freeze over. The only thing that was really dependent upon snow was our storytelling. So storytelling in the winter time was I imagine a really fun time, because I like to imagine everyone coming together. So in this nice warm snuggly Chapotake, all the family members together. And they've just eaten a big meal, they pulled out all that meat and those vegetables, and they've had a nice big stew or a nice big soup, and they're all, everyone's full and happy. And those elders gather everyone together, and it's time for us to pass on this information, this education. And it seems like a really it's a really nice time for people to come together. We had a storytelling in residence program at the Madison Public Library, and it really kind of emphasized to us how important storytelling is, not only just to like your immediate family, but also to a culture, to be able to pass on myths and legends and history and bring together a community in a way that we don't really do anymore. We don't really come together and bring information and say, we want to pass on these stories to you, and if they're going to be valuable to you in your future, whether it's practical knowledge, whether it is it's a moral story that you learn from, but it's all really important. I'm going to exit my full screen so I can see my notes as I'm going along. So I really I think this is kind of like the perfect time for us to reflect sort of thing. As we're going through winter, how can we come together and how can we bring each other and our communities together? Or how can we use this time to think about how we can bring our communities together? I really want to, again, extend a huge thank you to everyone for coming together, for coming today and listening to us and listening to this really brief presentation. Something that I reflect on a lot is, our history. And unfortunately, our history isn't taught in schools. And we've been very, Ho-Chunk Nation and Ho-Chunk people we've been very careful about what we share with others. And so I think this is a beautiful time for us and our communities to come together and begin to share all this information and share our communities and grow stronger together. Because we're really steeped, especially in Monona, we're really steeped in this Ho-Chunk history, and it's literally right there with in our view. And so there's just so much for us to learn and share with each other. And I'm really looking forward to the day that we're really embraced by each other, and you got a strong community, because all of these differences really are strengths for each other. What community is, little weakness, another community can come in and bring that strength to what it is, or maybe provide different viewpoints and different solutions that haven't been tried yet. But I see a really, really bright future ahead of us and the growth of all of our communities together. And again, as Missy mentioned, so Bill Quackenbush is making this dugout canoe over the winter time. He is bringing in the youth, and he's teaching them all these really cool skills that they're going to be taking forward with them. And it's really exciting because he's taking them on this trip, this week-long trip that normally they might not have access to, but they're able to really tap into their past history and really be able to live as our ancestors have lived. And it's really cool that they're going to be coming to San Damiano at some point in time. They're going to have an evening stop, and they're going to share stories there. They're going to sit around a fire and share a meal. And I just think that's just a really cool way for us to come together. And I think it's going to be a really cool way for youth to come in and feel welcomed by the community, and know that they're wanted, and know that they have a history that they can share with the community itself. So now, as we're emerging from the darkest part of the year, and we're looking forward to the coming spring, I'm really hopeful that for both this coming year, but also all this potential that this project has to bring, to bring together so many rich histories and so many rich cultures. And really, for the future of this project, it's going to be cool no matter what. And it's going to be really fun to see how this kind of flourishes and opens. But I'm just very excited to be able to share, my history and our culture with y'all. And looking forward to being able to do that more and more as we continue to kind of grow our opportunities and our partnerships together. So that is everything that I have for you all today. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, all three of you, Missy and John and Kyla. We really appreciate it. I know I learned a lot, and I'm assuming everyone else did too. Does anyone have any questions for the three of them?
I have a really novice question, and I apologize in advance. First of all, thank you so much for all of your information and all of you spending the time to present to us. I noticed, and maybe I'm conflating two different terms. There was Dijo with a D, and then Tijo with the T-E-E. Can you explain, and again, maybe I'm just was confused and conflating two terms, but what the difference of those are?
It's so we use the what is that, International Phonetic Alphabet? Is that right, John?
IPA.
Yes, IPA. So used around the world. So the T is actually a D sound, and it's not necessarily us like Ho-Chunk, but yeah. So it's Dejope though.
Gotcha. All right, thanks. All right.
Nancy?
Let me unmute. Hi, thank you. Thank you all for the presentation. So Missy, I want to go back to something that you said earlier. You may or may not know that I've known Bill for 5 or 6 years. I met him through Jesse Conaway, Dr. Jesse Conaway, who works over at UW. And in fact, I participated in the building the Chaputake in Woodlands a number of years ago when Jessie was still getting her PhD. And you probably know that I had Bill down to the property almost immediately. But it sounded like you were saying that in terms of the way you guys are structured, that we should be going through gaming but rather than talking directly to Bill, or
No.
no?
No, I was just trying to explain because oftentimes what happens is people will reach out to us and they'll
Right.
reach out to Bill, and so Bill, I explained we're a checkerboard community. He is all over all of our
No kidding.
communities, and his
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Getting FaceTime with him is often challenging.
I
So that
know.
we're right in the backyard.
Yeah.
Folks kind of, reach out to us, and then we talk with Bill. We're all kind of kept in the loop, but sometimes things fall through the cracks where somebody's talked to somebody, and then, you know what I mean? So I just offer that as a, and I only say gaming because that's where, that's where I'm housed, and that's,
Right.
who I'm employed by. So it's just a tribally owned business enterprise of the Ho-Chunk Nation, but that's the government side, we're the
Sure.
business side.
Sure.
So I just offer that up as, feel free to connect with us. If you're, if Bill is a little bit hard to reach, not that I can make his schedule any easier, but certainly, you can get a response. And again, not that Bill's not responding, he's just all over the place sometimes.
Yeah.
Trust me, it's hard for us to get
Right.
in touch with him at times. So yeah, no, if you're working with Bill directly, I know that when we were asked to present tonight, I just wanted to make that distinction that we do not we're not authorized to speak on behalf of the Ho-Chunk Nation. We
Right.
are authorized to speak on behalf of Ho-Chunk Gaming Madison.
Got it.
Ho-Chunk Gaming Madison, like what John spoke to, we're the ones who are instrumental in all of those projects with the blessing of the Ho-Chunk Nation, because they can't be down here, they're servicing our other areas. So oftentimes it's just easier to have a representative who's based in that community.
Right.
It makes, things much easier logistically. So yes.
Got it. I appreciate that clarity, because I know I was also involved in the changing of the name of the bay, and I worked with Janice as well in that, and in fact I just saw that picture was hers in the closing screen, and I know that I didn't even understand the difference there too, because I know that Janice is such an extraordinary historian for you all and member, but Bill was representing the government, as you said, and so sort of at the end of the day, there had been a name chosen back by the traditional council back in 2005, and that's the name we went with, because that Bill said that's the name you should go with.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, but so I just wanted to make sure that we're, I know our government's and the way we all operate is complicated, so I just want to make sure we're not crossing, in some way that we shouldn't be.
Totally. And that's such a perfect example, because Kyla and I were involved with Janice on a committee to rename Squaw Bay, and
Right.
then that they're kind of got the signals crossed, and that's when Bill said, and rightfully so, Bill is
Right.
authorized to speak on behalf of the nation. So
Right, exactly.
we speak on behalf of Ho-Chunk Gaming Madison, And it just, it's really, it's complicated just because you know how government goes and we're tribally owned enterprise. So we're almost like a government within a government. It gets really, but yeah, but we're here and we have frequent communication with Bill as, vice versa. So to kind of avoid those little, getting our lines crossed.
Yeah. Okay, great.
That's
Thank you.
good to know. And I know Brian has been in contact with Bill a fair amount also. So
Sure.
does
Yeah.
anyone else have any other questions about the presentation or comments? I think it provided us some good background on the history of the whole chunk in the area.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we don't have anything else, we try to keep our meetings to about an hour. I'm sorry, Wes, did you want to?
Yeah, just any other advice you have for us in terms of as we proceed forward, gathering input and planning? How can we do that well? What does a good process look like from your perspective?
I'm sorry, meaning like working with the nation or? Yeah. If Brian has in communication with Bill, I mean, that's wonderful. And certainly Kyla will keep us informed being on the committee. And then whatever Bill needs us to do, he'll say, hey, I can't make it down there, but they have X going on. Do you mind, stepping in? And then he'll bring us up to speed as he did about the things that I mentioned about walking the property, waiting for the TCP report. So we're very good communicators with one another. So yes, I would continue to go through Bill, but certainly, Kyla will kind of be that go-between if need be.
Can you,
And
Missy,
if
can you
nobody
say
else has any question, I just have one on how to give this back to you, Brian. Is there anything I need to do?
I've reclaimed host, so you're all good.
Awesome.
what does the TCP report mean?
Right, what is that?
John?
Oh, that's the technical component sheet or technical. I just had it. It just flittered away. Basically, what it is describing. I think they did GPR on that property, ground penetrating radar.
A little
They did
bit. A
some.
little bit. Yeah.
So that's the technical sheet that works, that's associated with what the ground makeup is.
Got it.
That's what they're waiting
Okay.
for.
Yeah, no, I did that with Bill now probably a year, at least a year ago. So I don't know if he's been back down because of the survey that we're doing, but yeah, he had his machine down like a year ago and looked at some particular areas.
Yeah. There's only one bill and a whole lot of Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So that's why we try and help where we can.
Yeah.
Alleviate whatever we can do to make us look still on top of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, anything else regarding the presentation from anyone? Okay, then I think we're going to move on. Andy was going to give an update on the year-end giving campaign and communications.
Sure, yeah. So we had hopefully, I think we added everybody on the steering committee onto our emailing list at a minimum. So hopefully you were able to see some of the communications that we have sent out as Friends of San Damiano, as well as some of the successes. So end of year fundraising campaign was extremely successful. We had 2 matches of $5,000 each, one from Monona Bank, and then another one, a combined joint effort between 2 anonymous donors. But we were able to raise over $36,000 just within from the day of the Tuesday giving day to the end of the year. So for us, that was extremely successful, and it's towards a majority of it is towards the conceptual planning process. We also received great news that we received the Madison Community Foundation grant for $25,000 towards the conceptual planning process. So we will be working on that and getting those funds as well. So we're extremely happy about that, because really, as an aside, that not only is successful as far as our fundraising efforts, but it really provides legitimacy. It provides support, success, a track record, and also similar to working with the Ho Chunk, it provides us an organization, Madison Community Foundation being the organization, a whole wealth of support and resources that we otherwise would likely be able to tap into, but this makes it a little bit easier. So we are very, very happy about this. So in total, I wanted to give an update too. For the conceptual planning specifically, we have raised $95,000. So if you remember during our November meeting, our goal was to raise about $150,000, and that's what we had estimated that a firm or a contract would potentially cost. So, you know, I'm happy to report we're well over halfway there. We're well on our way. We have a lot of other things in our pockets to get there before June 1. And we're looking forward to kind of what 2022 will bring. So that is the fundraising report.
That's amazing and good to hear. Congratulations. And thanks for all your work on that.
Yeah, and certainly thanks to people around this table too, because I know you guys have supported either financially or also, you know, just verbally and otherwise, aside from being on this committee, obviously. So thank you very much to everyone here.
Did you have anything else to add about communications?
No, I mean, again, the only thing I'll add is the Friends of San Damiano is really picking up our communication strategy and doing regular communication. So at a minimum, you'll be receiving a monthly e-newsletter, which we're trying to highlight different themes throughout the year. We've now done 2 newsletters, and then we'll have our third one coming out this month as well. So keep an eye out for those. We're always open to interesting things and other ideas that people have. I know Kelly sent us something about a timeline, and that's something that we're discussing and putting on our website. So we're more than happy to take feedback as well.
And if anyone wants to tell a friend or an acquaintance how they can get the newsletter, can they just sign up for it on the website?
Yep, that would be the simplest thing, is going onto the website, sandamianomonona.org. Otherwise, feel free, you know, if you know their email address, I can always add them onto our list as well. So
Okay.
We can do it any number of ways.
All right, well, thank you. And I think that pretty much, do we have anything more to say about the project timelines? Brian, did you want to address that at all?
Sure, just one item. So likely for our next meeting, whenever that's going to be here in the next couple of weeks, I should hopefully have a draft of the potential RFP document for this committee to take a first look at. Getting pretty close. So that should be ready for our next meeting. So we can get some feedback. And I think our goal, at least initially, was to have that ready for release by early March, so that we could have some time to kind of back into that June 1 date of having somebody on board. Obviously, we can flex that depending on how things go, but that's my hope. For the next meeting, we'd have that to be available to talk about as well.
Okay, then is there anything that anybody, Nancy?
Sorry, I just, is there an update on the 2 things that the city was to be working on? The 2 of many things that the city was working on, being the archaeology. Obviously, I would imagine we can't, like the house assessment and also the archaeological survey. Are there any updates there? I know we were hoping to get it done by the end of the year, but.
Yep. The contractor for the building condition survey is just wrapping up their survey, so I'll get that out or their report on their survey. So I'll get that out to the committee when I get it pretty shortly, and also send copies to the city council as well and put it up on the San Damiano project website. The archaeological study, that's an item that is unfortunately gonna have to wait till the spring with the snow cover. Also, we're trying to coordinate schedules between the archaeologists that we've worked with and the Ho-Chunk Nation, so that we can kind of work on this jointly. So I think spring is probably our best bet to get that work done once the thaw is off the ground, and we can get both parties kind of on the ground at the same time.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Does anyone have anything in particular they would like to see on an upcoming agenda that Brian can make a note of? I think the next step for the most part is to start focusing on the RFP. Nancy, did you have something?
Well, I think it would be good for the steering committee to discuss the term conceptual plan. in an upcoming meeting. I know that we've made a transition there, and I think that might be complicated when we get into the RFP process. So I'd like, just as we've been focused on, having the right talking points as a group, as a steering committee, I think it's probably a good idea to.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, well, if there's nothing else, I really appreciate you all making time to come to the meeting today. I think we learned a lot. Is there, Brian, are you going to be sending out a doodle or something for a next meeting? I would think we're probably talking early to mid-February. Is that maybe early February or?
Yeah, I think if folks are comfortable with this first week of the month type of situation, now we'd kind of get rescheduled here. I'd send out a poll to see if people would be available for that first week of February.
Okay. All right, well then we'll be in touch about that. And is there a motion to adjourn? I think Doug just moved adjournment.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Is there a second? Rebecca seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Stay healthy, everybody.